I got into brewing over 20 years ago now. I was always a bit of a science geek at school, to be honest, and I always wanted a career that used that science, if you will. I also didn't want a kind of desk job, a kind of office slave type job, and brewing just seemed to fit the bill perfectly. Originally I got into brewing, I was through working at a little brew pub in North London. That was the first time really I was exposed to the process. And that was really when I realised that it ticked so many of the boxes for the kind of career that I wanted. One of the things I love about brewing is that you're actually making something that's tangible and that people enjoy, and that's incredibly rewarding. A lot of people, I think nowadays, if they tell you what their job title is, you're none the wiser really what they do. Whereas brewing is just a good old-fashioned, really honest kind of profession. So I've worked in a number of breweries around the country, but I actually moved to Herefordshire about 14 years ago. And one of the things that really attracted me about Herefordshire is that it's the biggest hop growing region in the country. And hops are really the thing that get brewers excited. And there's about 30 different varieties grown around here.
We have a beer called Green Swan. And the reason that's named Green Swan is because it's a green hop beer. And a green hop beer can only be brewed during the hop harvest. That's because hops are harvested on the day and brewed with the same day. We linked up with a local farmer and decided on a brew day. We then found out which hops would be at their peak on that day. Off I went in the morning to watch the harvest. We saw our very hops being harvested and going into the tractor and going through the hop mill. We then brought back 30 kilograms of the green hops, a variety called Jester. It took 3 hours, 42 minutes and 12 seconds from the harvesting of our hops through to when the beer was in the fermentation vessel. What that gives for the beer is a really fresh taste. It's a bit like the difference between cooking with dried herbs and fresh herbs. You will get a different, fresher profile. And with Jester, that delivered grapefruit and blackcurrant notes to the beer.
So the flavour of the finished beer is controlled in a number of ways. Obviously the different raw materials you add will give you different beers. So for example, if you use very dark malts, you'll end up with beers like stouts and porters. If you use very pale malts, you'll end up with very pale beers. But really where it gets more exciting for the brewer is when you talk about hops. Around the world there's about 130 hop varieties grown, and you can think of them a bit like grapes are to a winemaker. That they've got that kind of idea of terroir. And by combining those different hops in different combinations and also adding them at different parts of the process, you'll get different results in the finished beer. So the microbrewery sector is really booming at the moment. There's lots and lots of new breweries opening up and lots of exciting things happening. As well as the classic beer styles, there's also all sorts of weird and wonderful things being developed. We, for example, have just brewed a roast coffee stout, which was a fascinating process. We teamed up with a local coffee roaster and produced this beer, which was the flavour of the coffee kind of marries up with the flavour of those dark malts very nicely.
We're very proud that we're the holders of SIBA Green Business of the Year Award. SIBA is the Society of Independent Brewers. There's about 1,700 brewers in the UK, so to be marked out as the top business in that regard is a real honour. Some of the reasons that we were chosen to receive that award relates to how we work with our raw materials. The malt goes off to a local farmer, to our chickens. It's also used in baking. It makes fantastic bread. Our hops have been helping with the soil condition of many a garden in Leicester. The Leicester Allotment Society, for example, are very keen recipients. The malt sacks find a new home with, there's a charity locally called People in Motion, and they use our malt sacks to take supplies over to displaced people. They're good for bagging apples, bagging wood chips, you can even sledge on them. Our pallets have been turned into furniture, most notably our own bar, which was constructed by Jimmy. But sustainability isn't just about the tangible stuff. It's not just about turning your lights off, using less water. It's about sustainable communities. We really want pubs to survive and thrive in villages. And around here, we can see pubs being taken over, being renovated, and bringing a heart back to the village again.
So really my favourite kind of beer styles are the classic English ales. There's a lot of an absolute plethora of different beer styles around nowadays from lots and lots of very good craft brewers. But I tend to favour much more kind of classic styles of ale, and that's generally what I try and brew here at Swan Brewery. One I'm particularly fond of is a beer called Armbreaker IPA, which is a 6% beer, but I try to make it as authentically as possible to how the IPA style would have been originally. So I use lots and lots of hops, but they're all local Herefordshire hops, and in particular a variety called Goldings, which is a classic Old English variety that very much would have been used in IPAs back in the day.
I think we will remain true to the fact that we are a local business and we want to serve the local community, and using Herefordshire hops, working with local people and local suppliers, and having a personal relationship with our customers and the drinkers is really important to us.